Great, thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Langley City Mayor Val Vandenbroek, and I'd like to call the December 13th, 2021 regular council meeting to order and begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Kaitsi-Kwantlen, Masqui, and Semiahmoo First Nations. And for any members of the public who are in attendance to watch these proceedings, welcome, and just a reminder to keep your mic and your camera turned off while you are in attendance. Thank you. And with me today for the last meeting of 2021, I can't believe Christmas is how many days away, Councillor Storboom?
Sorry?
How many days away is Christmas, you were saying?
Oh, we're less than 2 weeks away. I don't want to say 13. That's not a lucky number, but
yeah. It is coming. All right. So with me in attendance today, I have Councillor Paul Albrecht, Councillor Terry James, Councillor Gail Martin, Councillor Nathan Bahal, Councillor Rudy Storboom, and Councillor Rosemary Wallace. And for staff, we have our Chief Administrative Officer, Mr. Francis Chung, Director of Corporate Services, Darren Light, Carl Johansson, our Director of Development Services, Harad Gill, our Manager of Engineering Services, Kim Hilton, our Director of Recreation, Culture, and Community Services, and Kelly Kenny, our Corporate Officer. So we'll start with the adoption of the December 13th, 2021 regular agenda. Before we consider adoption of the agenda, are there any changes or additions to the agenda? Seeing none, that the December 13th, 2021 agenda be adopted. Need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Storboom, Councillor Albrecht, all those in favor? And that carries. All right, adoption of the regular meeting minutes from December 6, 2021, that the minutes of the regular meeting held on December 6, 2021 be adopted as circulated. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor James, Councillor Storboom. Call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carries. Public hearing minutes from December 6, 2021. That the minutes of the public hearing held on December 6, 2021 be adopted as circulated. Need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Wallace, Councillor Storboom. Any corrections? Call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. So the next upcoming meetings, the next regular council meeting will be January 10th, 2022, 3 p.m. virtual. And the following regular council meeting after that will be January 24th, 2022, 3 p.m. virtual. And first up, we have a recreation update with Ms. Kim Hilton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Great. So this is the update for Recreation, Culture, and Community Services for December. Just a reminder that our winter program registration did begin on November 25th. So people are welcome to go online at langleycity.ca under the Recreation tab, and you can register for programs beginning in January. Alternatively, you can phone 604-514-2940, or you can visit our lovely staff in person at Tim's Community Center. To give you an idea of some of the great programs that we have starting in January, we're going to start with our little guys, our Active Start Sports. We have 2 age groups for this Active Start. One is 2 to 3 years, and this is parent participation. And then we also have the 4 and 5-year-olds, and this is without parents. And we have 3 different types of Active Start sport programs. We have floor hockey, we have multi-sport, and we have the fundamental soccer. And these programs run throughout the week at different times at Tim's Community Center. So for more information, you can check our website at langleycity.ca and look under our recreation programs. We are running our 2nd annual Celebrating Arts and Culture exhibition. This will be taking place in January. This started last year, specifically virtually, with our Arts and Culture Task Group overseeing this. And we're doing it once again. And our theme this year is Earth, Wind, Fire, and Water. And all submissions can be sent in by December 15th. And we are opening this up to Langley residents. And the work should be current within the last 2 years. So programs, some fitness programs starting in January would be chair yoga. This was running Mondays at Tim's Community Center. And for more information or to register, you can phone 604-514-2940. We also have our very popular, always sold out Choose to Move program. So if it's something that you're interested, it's really geared for people who are 56 and older and looking for motivation to become more active. There is an information session that people need to attend to meet the instructor. That is on Saturday, January the 8th from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. here at Tim's Community Center. It is free, but you do need to pre-register. As I mentioned, this is one of our more popular programs, but it's a great opportunity for people to have one-on-one training and support and really become more active. So to register, you can phone 604-514-2940. And then moving from our active start, we now have fundamental programs, sports. And so this is for our next age group from 6 to 12. And you'll see we have basketball, volleyball, multi-sports, and soccer programs running throughout the week in the evenings here at Tim's Community Center. So for more information, you can look on our website at langleycity.ca under recreation, or you can phone 604-514-2940. Now we are busy with Magic of Christmas activities right now. There's a coloring contest with the help of our friends at the Langley Advanced Times. We have Elf on the Shelf Countdown to Christmas. If you've been following our social media, you'll see what these three little guys are up to, boys and girls up to, out and about in our community. We also have our Holiday Lights photo contest. This is running from December 8th through to January the 15th. It ends on the 15th because our lights will start coming down. We also have our Holiday Lights scavenger hunt. And again, we're in partnership with Langley Advanced Times. So you can, if you open up the newspaper, you can find all the details for this, as well as the Holiday Lights walking tour. Prenatal Yoga, so another program starting in January. This is really obviously geared for people who are expecting. It's on Sundays and it runs from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. January the 9th through to February the 13th. To register, again, you can phone our staff here at Tim's Community Center at 604-514-2940, or as we are all getting more computer savvy, you can actually register online as well. Roaming Rascals, they'll be back up and running in the new year. So we do offer classes at Douglas on Tuesdays and Fridays, and here at Tim's Community Center on Thursdays and Saturdays from 10 to 11:30 in the morning. And it's $5.50 per child. So it's a great way for the kids to run around, get off some of that steam, try different equipment that you might not necessarily have at home, and also meet new people. So for more information, you visit langleycity.ca. Learn to Sketch program. This is for our youth, grades 6 to 12. We have set 1 and set 2. So it's running really throughout the winter months. There is a cost of $72 on Saturdays for an hour and a half. And for more information, you can phone 604-514-2940. All levels are welcome. Learn to Train. So this is up from past the fundamental programs. We're now learning to train. So youth basketball, we have Learn to Train girls basketball. We have Learn to Train boys basketball. You can register anytime at 604-514-2940. The girls program runs Fridays and the boys program runs on Tuesdays. Tim's Bakery. I think I'm going to sign up for this. I might be able to sneak in as a grade 12 student perhaps, but it's Tim's Bakery. There's a set 1 and a set 2, and they'll be making things like bagels and cakes and cookies and bread. So looks like a really exciting, fun class. For more information, you can phone 604-514-2940. This is our youth program. He's doing a great job. I love to see this kind of stuff. And then UFit. So this is fitness for youth, specifically ages 12 to 15. It's running Wednesdays after school here at Tim's Community Center. So again, you can go onto our website or you can phone our staff at 604-514-2940. Just a reminder that our gymnasium is closed. The new lines are being placed down now, and then we have 2 more coats of varnish to go on. We are anticipating that it will be opened as planned on January the 4th. But because of the fumes and stuff, the walking or the fitness track is also closed, unfortunately. But this will be the one big process that's happening. And then in 3 years' time or so, we'll have a smaller process of refinishing. So it won't be shut for quite as long. Just want to shout out some of our holiday hours here. So you can see that Douglas is closed starting the 24th of December right through, including January the 13th. But Tim's Community Center is open. So we are open reduced hours on December 24th from 6 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. We're closed for 2 days, the 25th and 26th. And then we have our stat hours. So that's 8 to 8 on the 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th. On December 31st, we're open at 8 a.m., but we are closing earlier at 4:30 so the staff can go out and enjoy their evening. January 1st, we are closed, but then we're back to our stat hours for the 2nd and 3rd of January, resuming regular hours on the 4th. And from our department to everyone at home, I love this little guy. He is so darn cute. We want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. May the spirit of the holidays be with you throughout the new year. And that's my presentation for today.
That's great. Thank you very, very, very much for that report, Ms. Hilton. Always such wonderful, fun stuff going on with you and your staff. So thank you. Councillor Storteboom, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Hilton. Always a wonderful report with all the different variety of programs and activities that you offer. I wonder how you do it. You and your staff are amazing, especially in these trying times. And it's, well, let me start by asking you, those you fit program, were these people on some kind of a pod? What is that place they're on there?
Called a BOSU, and yes, so you're engaging your core the entire time you're on this because you're trying to balance on this very tippy piece of equipment.
That's amazing. You're on the cutting edge of where it's at. I got to give you all the credit. That's fantastic. You and your team are just the best. And the gym floor looks really, really great. I look forward to seeing that completed. But I'm just curious because, you know, we are in kind of trepidatious times. What are the current guidelines and protocols around attending Tim's Community Center and, you know, various recreation activities?
Thank you through the mayor to Councillor Storteboom. So to participate in programs, fitness programs in the games room or in the gymnasium when it was open, you do need to show proof of vaccine, 2 vaccines. And of course, if you're under, I'm going to say 19, you don't have to have ID, provincial ID, but over you do. If you're in a meeting, you don't have to show proof of vax at this point, but we are still practicing reduced capacity in our programs. So yeah, and when you're working out in the gym, in the weight room or a fitness class, you don't have to wear a mask. But other than that, if you're in the facility, you're wearing a mask. Okay.
And if somebody wanted to get an update on that because they were interested in attending, that would be at the City Hall switchboard at 604-514-2800.
Yeah, sure. And it's also on our website as well.
Brilliant. Okay, really good, because things are changing all the time, it seems. And yeah, it's been going on for far too long, but you've been doing an amazing job. Thank you for your great presentation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Pahal, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through the mayor to Ms. Hilton. It's always great to see all these activities and winter activities. It actually reminded me, I was walking by Douglas Rec, and I should have sent this as an email, but you're here now. There's a URL that says col.ca on the reader board in front of Douglas Rec. I just checked it out. I don't know if it goes to a city website anymore. So I don't know if that is an outdated thing on the reader board at Douglas, but I thought I'd just bring that to your attention. But otherwise, everything is awesome. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll follow up with staff.
All right. Sorry, I went to go lower your hand, Nathan, and it switched over and now I'm frozen. There we go. Okay. Oh, wonderful world of computers. All right, thanks, Ms. Hilton. Next up, we have Discover Langley City with Councillor Albrecht. I believe you have a presentation for us, or?
Yes, I do. Thank you. The report is in the council package, but there's an item here that I wanted to cover off because I think it's pretty important. So the November storms that caused massive flooding resulted in another big blow to tourism in British Columbia. Due to the devastation and road closures, DLC and Destination BC have halted all marketing campaigns for the time being. This has resulted in the DLC going back to their stay local and shop local campaigns and being very sensitive to consumer reactions to social media campaigns. In an effort to help with the devastating floods in the Lower Mainland and across British Columbia, Discover Langley City and the Downtown Langley Business Association have partnered together on behalf of all small businesses in Langley City with a donation of $5,000.
And Councillor Albrecht is frozen.
Via the Otter Codems.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Did you get any of my report?
The very beginning, and you raised $5,000, and then that's all we heard.
Yeah, I was. Sorry, I'm having technical
Maybe
issues
try
with my-
turning your video off, Councillor, and then your sound will probably be better.
Okay, I'll try that. Yeah, it was basically the small businesses have gotten $5,000 to get towards the flood and the Red Cross. So I'll just wrap it up there. The report's in your agenda package. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer.
Great, thank you so much for that. Okay, any questions or comments? Don't see any. Thank you for that. And next up, we have a last minute addition, which was a library update with Councillor Martin.
Thank you very much. At the last scheduled board meeting of 2021, the Fraser Valley Regional Library Board approved the 2022 budget, resulting in a 2.38% increase in total member assessment over the 2021 budget. Due to the application of Fraser Valley Regional Library's funding formula policy, the actual percentage increase will vary for each municipality. But what we wanted to let the public know prior to January is that in addition, the board voted in favor of ending fines on books and other items that are returned late starting January 1st, 2022. This is a rapidly growing trend in libraries across Canada and around the world. Studies have shown that late fines disproportionately impact low-income families and other marginalized groups, discouraging library use in some of the groups who arguably need the library the most. Fine-free does not mean responsibility-free. Library customers will still be required to pay for materials that are lost, damaged, or not returned. They just won't be charged a fine for returning books and other items that came back later than when they are due. The impact on member assessment of this decision is kept to a minimum by using our reserves to phase the impact in over 4 years at 0.21% per year, for a total of 0.84% over the 4-year period. This will bring the 2022 budget increase in total member assessment to 2.59%. And I'll just add a note that the Fraser Valley Regional Library temporarily stopped charging late fines in April of 2020 after temporarily closing due to the pandemic. This was consistent with the practice of most libraries in BC and across Canada, many of whom are now also moving to fine-free service. That's my report, and wish everyone a Merry Christmas from the Library Board. Thank you.
Councillor Bahal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through the mayor to Councillor Martin. For the fines, has the library suspended fines since April 2020, and now it's just going to continue it forever?
Yes.
Councillor Sturdivant.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Martin, for your report. So I just wanted some clarification on this for my own understanding. I think Councillor Hall touched on that. So there will be no more late fees all year long. It's not just a Christmas thing. It's not just a one-off thing. This is forever and ever always.
This is a permanent thing, no fines. But as I said, if books are not returned or damaged or something like that, they will have to pay for the books. They just won't be charged a fine.
Well, that's really great. My compliments to you and the board. I think that's very generous, and it seems kind of appropriate in the current culture. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Great. All right, that was the last presentation. We are now moving on to bylaws. First one is bylaw 3195, zoning amendment number 184 RZ 1021, and development permit number DP 1321. First and second reading of a bylaw to rezone the properties located at 19701 to 19729 55A Avenue from the RS1 single family residential zone and RM1 multiple residential low density to the CD81 comprehensive development zone to accommodate a 6-story 96-unit apartment development. That the bylaw cited as the zoning bylaw 1996, number 2100, amendment number 184, 2021, number 3195 be read a first and second time. Need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Sturdivant, Councillor James, any discussion? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor. Did you have a question, Councillor Pahal?
No, no, sorry, Madam Mayor. No.
Okay, I'll continue calling the vote. All those in favor, any opposed, that carries. All right, on to bylaw 3189, zoning amendment number 182 and DP 1021, third reading of a bylaw to rezone the properties located at 5364 to 5380, 198th Street and 19824 54th Avenue from the RS1 single family residential zone to the CD 79 comprehensive development zone to accommodate a 30-unit townhouse development. That the bylaw cited as the zoning bylaw 1996, number 2100, amendment number 182, 2021, number 3189 be read a third time. Need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Sturdivant, Councillor Pahal, and discussion. Go ahead, Councillor Pahal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This was the one I think just wanted to highlight that I believe the applicant worked and listened to the residents in the area, which is really good to hear. And what I will say for all of them, so I don't have to repeat myself, so staff is clear, it'd be really great if all the developers work to achieve a higher impact noise rating for all of these. Again, I don't want to repeat it 3 times. But yes, so I will support this. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Great, thanks. Any further discussion? Call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that carries. All right, on to bylaw 3191, zoning amendment number 183 and DP 1121, third reading of a bylaw to rezone the properties located at 20120 to 20170 53A Avenue from the RS1 single family residential zone to the CD80 comprehensive development zone to accommodate a 5-story 86-unit apartment development. That the bylaw cited as the zoning bylaw 1996, number 2100, amendment 183, 2021, number 3191 be read a third time. Need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Sturdivant. Seconder, Councillor James. Any discussion? Councillor Albrecht.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. And I've got some concerns on this one. I guess I want to be complimentary to Whitetail. I think the development is good. I think it is going to be a great contribution to our community. But from a process and a community perspective, this is a little community. This is a family situation. A lot of these people have been in that particular development for a long time. So I think it's a really important precedent that council keep an eye on as we move forward. This kind of sets the potential future for how development occurs in our community. I think the tenant relocation plan, while is above and beyond the minimum standard and requirements, I think it's something that we should be monitoring and review as we move forward. I think it's really important that we take care of longstanding or long-term residents in our community. And the same goes for businesses. I'd have to say that, to be blunt, am I on the wrong one?
I think we're talking about the 54, or sorry, Madam Mayor. I think we're on the 54 project, 54 Avenue project, but I could be, or sorry, the 53A project.
I thought
You
we were on
discussed
Fraser
it.
Highway project.
No, that's next.
Okay, sorry. Just
That's
ignore
okay.
me. I'm out.
Okay, Councillor Pahal?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and sorry for interrupting. I know I was talking about the bike racks, and I don't know if staff heard back from the proponent of this, because they were saying they might install hooks or something. Did you hear anything back from them as far as the space?
Through the mayor to Councillor Bahal, I don't think one of my team might have, but I haven't heard, but we can report back on that before the DP is brought forward, or when the DP is brought forward. We'll make sure we follow up on that. I am.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that carries. All right, here we go, Mr. Albrecht. Bylaw 3197, discharge of land use contract number 0373. Third reading of a bylaw to authorize the discharge of land use contract number 0373 from the property located at 20785 Fraser Highway, which is already zoned C1 downtown commercial. Removal of the land use contract will enable the accommodation of a 6-story 200 apartment unit and 1,488 meters squared commercial mixed use development. That the bylaw cited as the discharge of land use contract number 0373/2021, number 3197 be read a third time. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Storteboom, Councillor Martin. Councillor Albrecht, you're up first.
Yeah, thank you. And sorry about that. I was, obviously in the wrong spot in my agenda. But anyways, just to go back, I really appreciate what Whitetail is bringing to our community, the type of building, the forward thinking, the going above and beyond in many regards. And that includes the tenant relocation package that is not necessarily a requirement, as there's some minimum legislation that the province has put in, and they're going above and beyond that. So I applaud them for that. But this does set a precedent for our community moving forward. And I think it's really important that we follow and monitor this process to see how effective it's going to be, how well it works, and if there's any improvements that will be needed. So the tenant relocation policy is something that I would like to see a report back as we move forward. What I'm really disappointed in is the lack of any support for businesses. We've got some businesses that have been in the community for over 30 years or close to 30 years, and they're not getting any kind of support. So that's a little disappointment on my end, from my perspective. I know legislatively there's no requirement, but Whitetail is becoming a pretty important contributor to our community and building community. And this is a community in that particular location as it currently exists, and is a family to a large degree. So I think these are the types of things that we should be considering as we move forward. So it'd be really nice to see staff come forward with some options on how we can deal with relocation of businesses, with the revitalization of our downtown core with SkyTrain coming in. We're going to be seeing more and more of these situations where people are going to be, let's say, forced to move, forced to leave, forced to relocate. And I think we should be doing everything we can to support our existing community members, as well as future community members, in making sure that we all come up with the best possible scenarios for everybody involved, whether that be development, whether that be existing, whether that be new businesses or new tenants. So again, I'm looking forward to seeing how this progresses, the next steps, and hopefully we can have a good result.
He ended with good resolve, so I'm gonna figure he's done. And he's frozen again. So I'm gonna go on to Councillor Stordeben.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Albrecht, for your comments. I appreciate your concern with regard to those who are living and working in those properties that are going to be replaced, because the buildings are really old. They're ripe for redevelopment, and this developer sees that and has taken the initiative to move forward with that. We have a good working relationship with Whitetail, and I really appreciate the relocation package that they're putting together for the residents. I echo your concerns about the commercial tenants, and I would suggest that it may be that in the future, council can accommodate one tenant in particular about relocating. So I'll keep that in mind moving forward. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace.
Thank you through the mayor, and echo a lot of what Councillor Albrecht mentioned. For me, I'm still not comfortable, even though it is there is a tenant relocation plan. I think we heard at the public hearing about the vulnerability of some of the tenants that live there and the family that they have created and that community that they have created and supporting one another. But not only that, the landlord, they spoke of the landlord and how good he has been. And some of the places that are, not all of the places, but some of these lower income places that are here that are older in the city do not have what they have at that location. So I am worried about them, because, you know, housing's first, and now they're going to be in a predicament of having, you know, even though there is a relocation package, who's to say how long is Whitetail actually going to stay along those vulnerability, you know, those vulnerable, it's not up to them to do that. But so, you know, as we progress and we have to develop and densify, and that I am really concerned about the relocation of these individuals. Yeah, I don't know what the answer is. We're already shorted. We have a shortage of housing already. And to the businesses, some amazing businesses that have been businesses for the first time. You know, we look at the tattoo parlor that's there, right? It's been, you know, one of the, might even be the longest standing tattoo parlor, right? So there's businesses there that have been there for a long time. So just, I know there's nothing as far as a relocation plan for them. And we have bylaws in place as far as businesses being too close to one another. So I do have I have a few concerns. You know, it looks like a really nice property. I would like to see some more greening of the property. It is a gateway. I'd like to see some innovation when it comes to greenery in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pahal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And when I was looking at this and coming out of the public hearing, my initial response was to not vote in favor of the discharge of the land use contract, just from what I've heard from the folks there and the process. But then I took a little bit of time and did a little research and kind of just thought through the process myself. So in our official community plan, I know we have the engage early with the residents. And I think Whitetail did demonstrate that back a few months ago. And I know it sort of seemed at the public hearing that the wrecking balls were coming at Christmas time. But my understanding is, in order for the 4-month eviction process to start, the proponent actually has to have a demolition permit in hand. And my understanding for that is that like a provisional demolition permit in hand. So that means they will have to have their development permit approved by the city. and I'm sure Mr. Johansson can correct me if I'm wrong, and please do. I would not assume a development permit for this would be issued until sometime in February. So that's already a good chunk of time. When that DP is issued and a provisional demolition permit is issued, that's when the 4-month time starts. But the proponent actually has to go to the residential tenancy board and get approval from the residential tenancy board for the 4-month eviction. So that's probably going to take a month. So that might push it to March. And assuming that's approved, it could be April, May, June, July before people would be evicted. And if they had a tenant that didn't want to leave because there was an unfair deal with Whitetail, they could stay there and start a process again with the residential tenancy branch. And again, Carl, please correct me if I'm wrong. The city, I would hope to goodness, would never disconnect services from a building that is occupied. And maybe Carl, you can correct that. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Madam Mayor, did you want me to respond?
Yes, please.
Yep, I'm assuming that's okay. I just don't want to step in. Yes, through the mayor to Councillor Paul. With this application that we brought forward on November 22nd, we included an explanatory memo as a part of that package. And on the second page, it lays the process involved here. So should council give third reading to the land use contract discharge bylaw today, then the applicant needs to go through the standard process of, servicing agreement, subdivision application for dedication, land dedication, all that sort of stuff. And then the application, this bylaw would come back to council with a development permit in the new year. And, typically that takes a few months, like you said. And then once the development permit has been approved by council, the applicant can apply for a demolition permit, a conditional demolition permit, in order for them to provide notice to the tenants according to the Residential Tenancy Act. And what that does is that it sets in motion that legislation, the 4 months notice. And then once the tenants have moved on, been relocated, gone to other places, that's when the disconnects happen. And then it's only when the disconnects are done that the demolition permit is then fully authorized and they can go in and demolish the building. And of course, they'll also need a building permit to reconstruct on the site. So you can see there that there's a series of steps that need to be gone through yet, should council give it third reading. I believe that's going to be a number of months into the process before the disconnects can even be looked at. So that's all laid out in that explanatory memo on the second page, including something we get a report from the applicant as well before final disconnects as well, just so that we're keeping tabs on it.
Thank you. So the point being of all of that is probably going to be August or September of 2022. Before this would happen. So that's, I think, effective in our policy, which I think our goal is this early notice where, yes, it's terrifying. I would be terrified as a tenant. I'm not going to deny that because that's real. But you have basically 8 to 10 months of at least being able to start looking at options because, yes, it is really hard to find locations. And also Whitetail is doing above and beyond the Residential Tenancy Act with the extra month's rent based on, how long you've been there and some money. So I think at least there's enough opportunity to relocate, which I think is the intent of the official community plan policy we put in place. My concern still then lies with the people who could be identified as vulnerable. So I'm hoping again that the city will work with Whitetail to make sure before the wrecking balls come that Whitetail is done well with making sure that those people are not on the street. I'm assuming that's the whole kind of process there. And maybe I'll let Mr. Johansson speak, or the mayor can, sorry, if he wants.
For Mr. Johansson's piece, I know we've done it with other buildings we've done, like the one on 201A and such. And we also did that with the Lions. So I can't see this being any different. Would that be correct, Mr. Johansson?
Yes, and at the public hearing, the applicant did indicate that they have an approach for vulnerable tenants. And as part of the policy, that's why we have the policy here. And again, in the memo that we laid out, there's obviously the RTA, the Residential Tenancy Act requirements, and we've put in some additional compensation as part of that. And as I mentioned before, we are going to be monitoring that process through, should council give a third reading today, through to the issuance of the demolition permit to ensure that those tenants are able to be relocated, rehoused. I mean, that's one of the primary intents of this policy. And the expectation is that the applicant will be doing everything they can to find them accommodation. That's one of the key objectives of this policy.
Thank you. And just one final comment from me, and why I'm going to support this is I know that council passed unanimously a request for staff to look into an affordable replacement policy for old rental. And I think that's going to be really key moving forward, because I know a lot of people won't be able to relocate into Langley City. So that's also why I'm supportive, is because I know hopefully council will approve staff working on this as part of the 2022 budget. So thank you, Madam Mayor, for letting me speak.
Oh, thank you. Councillor James.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not going to reiterate what everyone else has said. I'm just really appreciative of council's comments and the compassion that I'm hearing. The one thing that's of concern to me, in addition to what else has been said, is having no strategy in place for displaced commercial business owners. This isn't going to be the first time this has happened. And to Mayor Val's point, this isn't the first time it has happened. It's not going to be the last. I mean, we're a city with no available land. We are in a 100% going forward a position of redevelopment. So I would welcome the opportunity and maybe support a recommendation to staff that they prepare information, maybe get an idea of what other communities are or aren't doing in this situation, and sit down with the rest of council and try to put together some sort of a handbook for this going forward. I realize every situation is going to be different, but for future councils as well, because it's going to continue to happen. And if we have some guidelines or at least recommendations, I recognize there's no legislation for it, but recommendations in place on exactly how to treat displaced residents and displaced commercial businesses. I don't know how everyone else feels about that, but I think that's something we should potentially do sooner rather than later. And yeah, so that's my 2 cents. I am concerned as well about the displacement for everyone in this development. So I will be supporting it based on primarily what Councillor Pahal said, but recognizing that there's still a lot of work to do on this one. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Strickland.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Councillor James, in that this is an interesting perspective. If I understand it right, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you're suggesting that the city establish a policy for new development that causes the displacement of tenants that is above and beyond the Residential Tenancy Act, maybe even above and beyond what Whitetail Homes is doing?
May I respond, Madam Mayor, for clarification?
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, you're correct, Councillor Storterboom. And again, I recognize that Whitetail is doing, an above and beyond job with the residents. It's because the building is so old and the rent is so affordable there. That is the big challenge. But the other component that is not being addressed by Whitetail is the business component. And I think it would behoove us as a community to try and those businesses that are being displaced now and going forward, if they wish to relocate in Langley City, I'd like to discuss the possibility of even being able to recommend to developers going forward that they have something in place to protect these individuals as well, or not protect them, but at least help them. And I'll give you for instance, I would assume, because we have next to no vacancy for commercial tenants or commercial business owners in Langley City, it's a wonderful problem to have because that means we're doing our job. However, in some instances, I suspect they'll be paying rent in 2 different locations for months, just while they're trying to find a new place and think, or if they secure one and they can't finish their tenancy in another or what have you. So it's just something I'd like to see us put in a policy, or at least have recommendations for developers on how we can help these folks as well. Thank you.
May I respond, Madam Mayor?
Yep, make it quick,
Thank you very
please.
much. I appreciate your compassion, Councillor James. I think that you're onto something here. It's certainly worth having a look at it with staff. It may be available for us to, maybe have a coffee with Mrs. Johansson and see if we can work something up. I know that there are some concerns around some of the existing businesses that are having to relocate, especially if they're going into an area where we've got a moratorium on businesses of that type being in a particular area. Yeah, I think that we can agree that there's a generally favorable attitude amongst council for our business community and the small businesses in particular. It's certainly worth looking at. My compliments to you, Councillor James. I think you're onto something. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that carries. Okay, on to bylaw 3198, fees and charges amendment bylaw, final reading of a bylaw to amend the fees and charges bylaw, various fees, that the bylaw cited as fees and charges bylaw 2010, number 2837, amendment number 31, bylaw 2021, number 3198, be read a final time. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Sturdivant, Councillor Martin, any discussion? Call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Okay, on to administrative reports, proposed amenity contributions update and density bonusing in the zoning bylaw. And I believe Mr. Johansson, our Director of Development Services, has a little presentation for us.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
I am going to turn off my video and share the screen and have a few slides here. Okay, that's not the correct screen. Give me a second. Let's try that one. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks. So today we're bringing forward a proposal regarding amenity contributions and density bonusing in the city. And what we're bringing forward today is a proposal to update our current community amenity or CAC rate for densities between 0 and 2.5 floor area ratio or FAR. Implementing a density bonusing system in the new zoning bylaw through that update for densities above 2.5 FAR. Creating affordable housing incentives, including consideration by council to reduce or waive amenity contributions for affordable housing units that qualify. And capturing these three items in a new proposed amenity contributions and density bonusing council policy that's attached to the report that you have before you. And proposing to launch the updated rate for the amenity contributions in mid-March 2022 and applying that to official applications submitted on or after that date, March 15th, and also launching density bonusing with the updated zoning bylaw in mid-2022. So in terms of a little bit of history behind amenity contributions, otherwise known as, like I said, CACs, it started in 2008 here in the city with an increase in density in the zoning bylaw. And the principle being that as densities increase, as you have higher populations, you require more amenities in the community, and the ability to fund those amenities such as parks and community centers and affordable housing and that sort of thing. So the initial rate in 2008 was $500 per multifamily dwelling unit. That's from townhouses to apartments. And in 2013, it was brought up to 1,000, and 2017 up to 2,000. So every 5 years, it's been reevaluated and increased as land values and values of development have gone up. And in May of this year, staff brought forward a preliminary update to the amenity contributions and presented a framework for density bonusing and also waivers for amenity contributions in response to a request from the Langley Lions. And in that report, the preliminary recommendation was to increase it to $4,000 a unit pending further research. And as we all know, there was housing waivers proposed in that as well. So we've gone away and done some research, took an updated scan, talked to some people in the development community, consultants, and have come back with this policy that you have before you. And of course, we all know that council adopted a new OCP just a few weeks back, and that includes significantly higher densities, especially around SkyTrain, anticipating the growth around that new investment. And also the existing high frequency trends that we have in the community. So OCP policies specifically identify the continued collection of amenity contributions, voluntary contributions that are used to fund amenities in exchange for the increase in density through rezonings and development permits, and also introducing density bonusing so that over time developments can seek additional density, but ensuring that we have the means to fund those amenities that we will need to maintain a quality life in the community as we grow. So here we are today with proposed amenity contributions and density bonusing policy. So in terms of what we like to call in sort of the planning research world, what are your first principles guiding your recommendation? So we got some key ones here. Whenever you're looking at amenity contributions or bonusing, you always want to make sure you're anchoring it with clear rationale. Why are we seeking these contributions? Well, like I said, with more density, there's a need for more amenities in the community. That's critical to have that highly livable, transit-oriented development, highly livable downtowns, and even areas, where you have new townhouse development and coach homes and that sort of thing. You need the parks to support that population. So it's important you have the mechanism to have that in place. And as higher land values come about, it's reasonable to seek a higher share of that value coming back to the community. So that's part of the rationale. We want to make sure it's easy to understand, simple to use. So we're recommending maintaining the approach that Langley City uses is on a per dwelling unit basis. It makes it puts it up front for developers. It's very transparent, and it lends itself to very expedient, efficient development application processes. So it's important to do that research up front, and then you can set a rate target and away you go. And of course, we want to be able to seek an appropriate share of land lift over time. Many communities use the principle of equal share of land lift. So basically, a target of 50% of the land lift value increase that a rezoning might bring forward, and that's a long-term ceiling. We're not there yet with these rates. We want to make sure that we're being practical and prudent in terms of how we introduce updates over time. But that is an important principle and something that's very important to communicate to our development community. And number 4 leads right into that. It's looking at introducing new rates over time, and you look at that in a stepped format. So as you go up in density, those rates also go up because the value goes up. And of course, at the end of the day, the density goes up, you're going to need those amenities. And of course, last but not least, we want to make sure that we're maintaining our competitive advantage as being an area that has a city that has positive experiences for development processing, and making sure the items that we're seeking from the development community are known up front. Okay, so comparing ourselves with other local governments in Port Moody, they typically seek $5,000 to $6,000 per unit for amenities, and they have density bonusing above that. Our neighbors, the township, they I believe in 2018 is when they brought forward their CAC. They had around $4,500 per unit for apartments 6 stories and under. Given the recent increase in land values and densification in some of their high growth areas, they are now tripling their rates up to 13,000 per unit for apartments under 6 stories, and apartments over 6 stories, about 10,500 per unit. In White Rock, it's about 30,000 per unit. Coquitlam, they have sort of a 2-tiered system, something very similar to what we're proposing here, where they have a community amenity contribution up to 2.5 FAR, and that's used to fund specific amenities. And for density bonusing above that, works out to about $21,000 per unit. And they're using all of that to fund all the amenities in their Parks and Rec plan, for example. Vancouver, it's a little bit of a different context in terms of the price point. Some areas have a specific rate per unit, like Grandview. Some areas like the Cambie corridor, they're looking at around $100 per square foot for strata condos. And interestingly, no CACs for rental housing. So some communities do it a little bit differently in terms of where their needs are. Now in Surrey, they have communicated a target of 75% of land lift along the Fraser Highway SkyTrain corridor. We're not exactly sure what that means yet, but they will be also seeking density bonusing. Again, just highlighting our neighbors here in terms of their recent review that they did with Eric Vance and Associates, and coming up with a proposed approach, and something that from a staff perspective, we feel is a pretty defensible approach. So this is our amenity contribution rate approach today. This box here is, of course, a conceptual building, and right now we're looking for 2,000 per unit. Back in May, we proposed, well, let's bring it up to 4,000 pending further research. We are still proposing that today, and also putting it up to a 2.5 FAR cap, and then introducing density bonusing above that. So bringing up our current contribution rate up to 4,000, and then introducing these tiers 1 through 6 through the new zoning bylaw, which we'll be bringing forward for public consultation in the spring. But the principle here is that as you go up in density, and we have it from the 2.5 typical, that's a typical threshold where density bonusing kicks in. The Local Government Act does give the authority for councils, for cities to ask for density bonusing. So if an applicant is looking for additional density, there's certain amenities that they have to provide in return. And that's reflected here in this tiering system. So the principle is that as you go up in density, the needs for amenities go up. And this process here that we have laid out is intended to be quite a predictable, upfront framework that developers can look at when they're looking to purchase land, bring in applications and that sort of thing. And it's also a framework that can be updated over time as the city's needs evolve, as land values change, and as circumstances require. Now, what's important is to show where in this area where comparing to the township of Langley, where they've tripled their rates, you can see here around tier 2 is where the city of Langley's rates are essentially tripled, and how that aligns with, and of course the township itself is up at the top end of our density range here. So we're not exactly equal with the township, but it's something that we can compare ourselves as something working as us, the city working towards over time. But what's important to point out is that right now, our current apartment density is around 2.1 FAR. So that's where the wood frame apartment market is here, that blue line. So the majority of applications, should council approve this increase, would be paying the 4,000 per unit. And right now, the red line denotes sort of the upper limit of our mixed use projects. It's around 3 FAR. And as the market shifts to concrete construction, we'll start seeing applications that are into the 3, 4, 5, 6 range. But for the time being, until the market shifts to concrete, it's probably a few years away. This is likely the area that applicants would be, these are the rates that we would be seeking from applicants. And when you look at a typical mixed use development around 3 FAR, it works out to an average about $4,100 to $4,200 a unit. And of course, over time, these rates can be reviewed and increased as land values and the values of units go up and the community's amenity needs are also increasing. So just finishing off here, talking about waivers for affordable housing. Other local governments look at waiving community amenity contributions or density bonusing if there's on-site affordable housing units provided in new developments. So as a physical long-term community amenity. And it enables cities to proactively partner in creating affordable housing, especially for those that don't have land to provide through leases or have affordable housing reserve funds that they could use to add into the proposals for affordable housing. There's also important to note that there's an increasing expectation from senior government funders that local governments look at, waiving their bonus contributions or CACs and DCCs in order to help the affordability of these projects. We're not proposing waivers of DCCs at this time, but as part of the policy here, we're proposing a framework for council to consider waivers for affordable housing for certain types. And in other communities, there's a lot of examples where waivers can be brought through additional FAR, where there's no contributions on that. In some places, rental housing is very valuable. So like I said, in Vancouver, they don't charge any CACs for that. In other places, it's 50% waiver. But most places, actually pretty consistently for non-market housing, it's typically a 100% waiver for that. So in terms of the city's proposed approach and recognizing that, affordable housing units that are secured for the long term through a housing agreement to ensure that those units stay on site for the life of the building. And looking at it from the perspective that this could be a valuable contribution from the city instead of land or contributions from reserves, that, the city does look at waiving amenity contributions and density bonusing contributions for, say, for below market units where there's some subsidy, but it's secured long-term through a housing agreement. And the proposed rate is 75% waiver for below market. That's a minimum 10% below market rent. And there is some variability in there, but there needs to be definitely a benchmark for that. And of course, that those units would be secured for the life of the building. And for non-market units that have, of course, the deepest subsidy, those are also secured for the life of the building. And because of that affordable unit being a long-term community amenity, the consideration for 100% waiver there. And of course, like I said, housing agreements need to be brought forward through bylaws and registered on the property title in order to affect these as true community amenities, and there shouldn't be any exceptions on that. So thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. So just in summary, if looking at next steps, if Council approves this policy, we can start applying that to new applications, official applications on March 15th. Council can consider affordable housing waivers according to the framework and the policy, and also move ahead with implementing density bonusing in a new zoning bylaw. And of course, we will ensure that the development community is aware of this. And there'll be further consultation as well with the public and the development community on the new zoning bylaw. And lastly, it'll be important to periodically review and update these rates and our density bonusing approach as we get closer to SkyTrain coming to town, as the city grows and as land values go up, and as emerging affordable housing needs come to us as well. So thank you for that opportunity to present.
Well, thank you for presenting, Mr. Johansson. Just one question for me in regards to the updating and reviewing. Will this be done on a yearly basis from staff so that, because we know every year the real estate prices increase, so that will that be done on a yearly basis now, or how will that be done?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Our proposal is it can be done on a yearly basis. I would say definitely on a biannual basis, every 2 years for sure. If there are, fundamental shifts in the land value, escalating prices and that sort of thing, then I would suggest that we would come back with a yearly review. What I would also say is that we can come back, on an annual basis, outlining the development applications we've had and the amenity contributions that have been provided to the city. And that's also an opportunity for council to review that and request staff to review the rates as well. So I would say at a bare minimum, every 2 years for sure.
Great, thank you. Councillor Sturdivant.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you, Mrs. Johansson, for your presentation. Are you asking for a motion to approve your recommendation? Because I can make that motion. If I can get a second, then I'll make some comments.
I have a motion, if you would like me to put it forward, and that council approve the amenity contributions and density bonusing policy number CO80. We need to move
Thank
on
you.
a seconder, please.
I'll move.
Okay, Sturdivant and Albrecht, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johansson, for your, thank you, Madam Mayor, for your motion. And thank you, Mr. Johansson, for your presentation. It seems to me that we're kind of lagging behind some of the other municipalities. And so this is a matter of catching up. I'll be supporting the recommendation. And as to the mayor's comments, inviting staff to do a regular review, I thought we were, but quite frankly, I think that we are behind, and that we'll have to be updating this. I think that it's really important too that as much as we're asking the general public to accept the fact that we're looking for greater density to accommodate the housing crisis that we're in right now, we're also asking for our development community to recognize the fact that these are not discretionary amenity costs. These are costs that are very real to the community, and providing the quality of life to the buyers and tenants that they bring with their multifamily residential developments. So it's not a cash grab. It's a very real expense, and we have to be careful if we're waiving these community amenity costs for some projects that are always asking are going to be asking for some kind of relief because they might see this as being discretionary. I think it needs to be stated very clearly that there are costs associated with bringing new people into the community. It's not just a cash grab. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to this moving forward. And I should mention too that the real estate market is such that I think that we're going to see detached housing prices sort of settle down, but people still want to buy a place to live. So we're going to see attached properties increasing in value and more of them moving into the future. So I think this is very timely, and I thank you again for bringing it forward. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that carries. All right, on to new and unfinished business. There's no motions or notices of motion, no correspondence. So on to new business. Motion to hold a closed meeting. That the council meeting immediately following this meeting be closed to the public, as the subject matter being considered relates to items which comply with the following closed meeting criteria specified in section 90 of the community charter. 1A, personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality or another position appointed by the municipality. 1D, the security of the property of the municipality. 1E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements, if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interest of the municipality. 1G, litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality. 1J, information that is prohibited or information that if it were presented in a document would be prohibited from disclosure under section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. 1K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that in the view of the council could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. 1L, discussions with municipal officers and employees respecting municipal objectives, measures and progress reports for the purposes of preparing an annual report under section 98, annual municipal report. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Sturdivant, Councillor James, all those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. And before we go, I know this has been another very challenging year. You know, between dealing with COVID, the floods, the fires, we had a tornado. It's been a crazy year again, but we've come through this all stronger together. And hopefully next year, 2022, will be even better for all of us. So on behalf of all of us here at the city, we wish everyone out there a very Merry Christmas and a very happy 2022. And with that, I'll put a motion forward that the meeting adjourn. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor James, Councillor Sturdivant, all those in favor?
Merry Christmas.
And that carries.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Have a wonderful Christmas, everyone. Thank you. Kelly, you can turn the recording off, please.